Beyond the headlines, the noise, the spin, we seek the stories that live within. Past party lines, past powers disguised, we hear the truth in everyday lives. A space for voices, both gentle and strong. Beyond politics, where we all belong.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Beyond Politics on Oz Arab Media, where we take the time to understand how decisions that shape our communities are actually made. I'm Christine, and today I'm joined by David Walsh, Councillor for the City of Canterbury-Bankstown, representing the Revesby Bunya Ward. As one of the largest and fastest growing local government areas in New South Wales, Canterbury-Bankstown is facing increasing pressure around housing, infrastructure and planning decisions. Now, this conversation matters because local council decisions directly influence how communities grow, how neighbourhoods change, and how residents experience their daily lives. So, David, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Christine.
Of course, at any time. Before we go deep core politics, if I can say, let's learn a little bit more about you. Before the public office, who were you and which industry did you come from?
So I work as a full-time software engineer. So I studied maths and computer science in university, and that's been my trade for a long time. So I guess, I've always maintained that interest in politics, in policy development. Been involved with the local Labor Party. I guess that's where I'm coming from. Yeah,
that's amazing. And if we want to talk a little bit about your childhood, like where you grew up and how your early environment really shaped your perspective on community, if I can say.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I guess like most people, my values derive first and foremost from my parents. My parents, their sense of social justice, their belief in fairness, but at the same time recognising that the world's not inherently fair. So that's something we have to strive for. I believe that's what governments can shape.
Of course.
So that's my values. I was born in Adelaide. I moved around a lot as a child. Lived in Adelaide, Darwin, back to Adelaide.
Wow.
Samoa for a couple of years, Canberra. Before finally coming to Sydney as a high school student.
All right. And was that around Revesby area, if you don't mind me asking, when you came into the high school?
No, it wasn't until we were looking for our, my wife and I were looking for our first place, our first home to own that, the Revesby area really stood out as a place that was
interesting.
That was in our budget, that had great transport access and looked like a really good place to live. So, I didn't grow up here, but, I've been resident here for over a decade now.
That's nice. And what's something people misunderstand about you, David, if I can ask? Maybe you as a person behind politics, what do you think they don't really know about you?
I suppose one thing they don't know is that a role's not full-time. Well, some people do, some people don't. But, councillor's role is not full-time. So we're still dedicating 40 hours a week to our full-time job. So we've got to fit in our councillor responsibilities around that. And that's hard. So it might just mean we've got to sacrifice other things. We get the mayor's full-time, but all the other councillors, and most of us do have full-time jobs. We've got to fit things around that. We get a part-time stipend, so we're certainly not in it for the money. And sometimes that means, you can't, as much as we love to get out there and get in with the community, we can't always go to every community event. Sometimes we have to say no to things, which is a shame.
Amazing. And as you said, it is not for the money, it's for the community.
That's
Maybe
right.
We're in it. Now, speaking of some responsibilities and sacrifices, did you feel that the public service did come with a lot of responsibilities and sacrifice in your life?
Council does so much, you step outside and you've got, roads, footpaths, trees, all the sporting grounds and playgrounds and libraries. There is a ton of stuff council does, and from the moment I got elected, you're getting emails about all sorts of things, and you're like, wow, it's like you're being very tested from the very first day.
Yes.
So it is a fast learning curve. But that's okay. That's what we got elected for, and it's something to come to grips with. Yeah.
Amazing. But David, what really motivated you to step into the local government rather than just really contribute from outside the system, if I can say?
I guess my theory of change and how things change, how things get better is that you really do need to have a seat at the table. So I'm not sure. I think I mentioned I was in the local Labor Party. City council was stepping down, so I put my hand up, got on the ticket, and here we are.
And here we are.
Yeah, and being a councillor is quite a privileged position. There's only 15 of us for the entire local government area, so being one of that 15. It's quite a privilege.
Amazing. Now, you did mention that your parents had a lot of influence on you for the perspective of a government, as well as maybe moving around a lot in Australia. But what really we can say a life experience that has influenced your approach to decision making nowadays?
Yeah, that's a hard one. I'd struggle to identify a single life experience. The decisions we make are shaped by our values, and our values, derive from all sorts of places over the course of a lifetime. So I'd struggle to say one experience shaped me, but, everything, parents, teachers, things you've read and learned, the conversations you have with people, they're always shaping your values, always offering you different perspectives and ways to think. And that continues right up until the present day. You never stop learning. You're always taking in new information and letting that guide you.
Amazing. So we can say just simply growing and maturing is
what
helps
I think so,
us. Yeah. Amazing. And now if I want to focus a little bit about a political topic, which is the housing growth and rezoning in our area. When it comes to increasing the housing density in our areas, what part of the decision-making process do you think residents least are aware of?
Yeah, so I think one aspect that's not fully appreciated is that it's not a discretionary process. So, people might say, oh, why did you allow this development? Why did you allow that development?
It's not a solo decision, is it?
Yeah, that happens. I guess that happens more at the bureaucratic level. At our level, we're shaping the higher level strategy, the zoning for this area, zoning for, one set of blocks, and the rules around that, the lot sizes and floor space ratios and the rules. And, when we adopt those things, we have to think high level. We have to think how are we going to accommodate growth and the best way to shape that. But as far as individual approvals come, that's not at our level.
That's not how it works. Yeah. But where do compromises usually happen, David, when balancing the need for more housing with infrastructure and the community expectations as well?
Yeah, I suppose I wouldn't really think of in terms of compromises. Certainly balance is important. I can think of one compromise. I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
But to take the first two things, housing and infrastructure. So, it's vital that infrastructure keeps pace with development or, can handle any uplift. So things like utilities, electricity, water, sewage, NBN, they need to have the capacity to cope with population increases and other physical infrastructure, roads, footpaths, and the planning laws recognise that.
Yes.
So as part of new developments, developers are required to fund things like physical infrastructure.
Right.
They might be building footpaths, cash contributions to local projects, that sort of thing. And you mentioned community expectations. Yeah. Everything we do involves community consultation. Yeah. So, there'll be extensive rounds. Often there's initial engagement. There might be a draft plan that we engage on, a polished plan we engage on. And at every stage we're taking in the community input. We're considering what they have to say, and we'll make changes according to what they say. And look, if there is one compromise that I can think of, so a big concern of ours is canopy coverage.
Yeah.
And obviously, new developments, you see all the time, they'll be knocking down trees to build. And, sadly, that is necessary to provide new housing. And look, I suppose if you took a holistic view of Sydney, if you were like the state government saying, you might say, well, infill development, it's still more environmentally friendly than, say, greenfield development, where I guess you're doing, you're bulldozing entire farmland and all the nature reserves to build new lots. But we can't take the holistic view. That doesn't really for local residents, they're concerned about their local streets, their local suburbs. So we recognise that as a problem, and it's one we want to solve. So that's why we've adopted our urban forest strategy. So we recognise that we were falling behind in our canopy coverage, going backwards, and we want to go forward. So it'd be more tree planting on public land, working with developers to retain more trees, and instead of our canopy coverage going backwards, we want to go forwards.
Fair enough. Now, what most often, David, slows down good ideas when you're trying to plan for a sustainable growth, knowing that it's not a solo decision?
I suppose the biggest thing that slows things down is the planning process. So we have a very convoluted planning process in New South Wales. We've recently adopted master plans for a lot of our town centres, particularly along where the new metro line is going to be. And that is a lengthy process. There'll be initial consultation. There'll be draft plans, and that can take so many years. We've got council staff and consultants looking at areas, studying things like flooding, what the utilities can cope with, what the roads can cope with, traffic studies, all these things. And it is a lengthy process, and it needs to be a lengthy process, and we need to engage with the community. And then, there'll be multiple rounds of consultation.
So behind the scenes is really what makes it the hardest part.
And it makes sense because the big changes, you want to get it right. On the other hand, we talk about a housing crisis, and you don't want to be too slow to respond to the challenges.
Speaking of the balance again.
Yeah, balance, exactly.
Right. David, let's talk a little bit about the change and how it actually happens. Now, what does this really mean to the people? Planning decisions often involve both state directives and local council representatives or responsibilities. Where do the coordination and the challenges usually arise between these two states or councils?
Yeah, it's just, I guess it's the divided responsibility. So to take one example, the state government's Variant 10's policy of transport-oriented development, that means building housing around transport hubs, in particular train stations. That's quite a good idea because if you're building around train stations, that eases the burden on local roads. More people are using public transport, which requires the state government to invest billions and billions of dollars in. So if you're investing that much money, you want people using it. Means fewer cars on the road, less money people have to spend on their cars and petrol. So that makes a lot of sense. But the issue is, traditionally, housing's a local government responsibility, transport's a state government responsibility. So that does create...
You have to work together.
A lot of working together. And sometimes state governments get impatient and they want to, put their housing housing plans over the top of local government housing plans. For some years, we've been working on our master plans. So I mentioned the metro line. So basically all the suburbs along that line from Canterbury all the way to Bankstown, we've had master plans in the work for some time. We're really proud of the work we're doing because we look at detailed studies of our local areas and we think as a local government, we know our local areas best. Under the state government rules, it would have been a more uniform, more one-size-fits-all plan, not taking into account, I guess the more place-based planning we call it. So that's the negotiation we've had to have with state government that, we believe we could still deliver the same housing targets, but we were really keen on our master plans rather than the top-down rules. And we've actually been successful in getting them to adopt our master plans, which I think was a real success for council during.
Amazing. David, how do you balance the pressure for more housing with maintaining livability in established suburbs?
I guess the premise of the question is that does more housing damage livability?
Yes, or enhance it.
Enhance it, yeah. Look, I believe in density done right. So, increased density can unlock more amenity, can make businesses viable, things like cafes, restaurants, which obviously rely on patronage. If you have a bigger customer base, then those things become more viable, and so that can actually make an area more attractive. Same applies for infrastructure, so transport. I talked about more housing around transport. When that happens, you can have more frequent services because people are getting on the trains, and instead of having a train every 15 minutes, you can have one every 10 minutes or whatever. Yeah.
But how are these weighed in practice, David? Like we spoke about competing priorities. Yes, they do help each other, the housing supply, the transport, and the services like community services. But how do we weigh them in practice in terms of priority?
So, housing supply and transport access. So, again, making sure the two fit together. Put housing close to transport.
Yes.
Then they work in sync.
Yeah.
I mentioned developer contributions. So, it's important that any infrastructure shortfalls we have to have that funded for. So again, we can't.
So we can say they're exponentially growing together rather than one competing with the other.
Yeah, I don't know if it's exponential growth, but a steady growth.
Steady growth,
Yeah.
Right. Let's ground this in what it means really for the people's lives. So who stands to benefit from all this increased development in housing supply today in Canterbury-Bankstown?
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess the cynical answer to that is these developers. I mean, we hear that a lot. A lot of people say, all these greedy developers. And, and look, you don't need to be a shill for developers to recognise that, look, they can only sell what people are willing to buy.
Yes.
And look, the fact is we have a housing shortage. We don't have enough housing supply to meet.
Got to do what we got to do.
That's right. So who benefits? Well, anyone that needs housing. So that could be young people who want to move out of home, wanting to buy their first home, or even if they're wanting to rent. It could be older couples looking to downsize.
Right.
And those two things work together. The house that an older couple sells might be the house that a younger couple buys. And that's why, as a council, we believe in a diversity of housing. We've got a lot of different people in the community and there's a diversity of needs, and we need to have a diverse housing stock to meet those needs. So broadly, I think everyone, because we all need housing, we all need a roof over our head. Yeah.
Good to hear that not only the developers really benefit from this. Now, who might feel concerned or uncertain about how their neighbourhood is changing or growing?
Yeah, I guess there's always nervousness about change, and that's human nature. We get used to things being a certain way, and the idea of change makes us nervous.
Yeah.
At the same time, changes in the nature of things. The suburbs I represent, Revesby, Padstow, Panania, they haven't always been the way they are. They were developed in the 20th century, and our built environment is always changing. So, look, it's about getting the changes right. We know we have problems to solve. We know we have a housing crisis. Right. And a crisis it does need some sense of urgency, doesn't it? So we're not going to solve problems by kicking the can down the road. And look, I get it. Change can require certain adjustments. So a big complaint I hear is, the number of cars on the street.
Right.
And this is often blamed on duplexes. We've had a lot of duplexes go up in the area, and certainly that does mean more people living on smaller lots. But and the way our suburbs are built. Unfortunately, everyone needs a car, and
maybe we can start thinking about some more parking close to us or to the building areas.
This is the thing though. When you design suburbs around cars and parking, everything just gets more spread out. You've got to devote more space for cars,
True.
more space to parking.
Yeah.
So it's kind of you're always kind of chasing your tail a bit with these things. It's kind of a legacy of decisions here. I do think I know I'm coming back to the same points,
Yes.
but building housing around train stations, I guess, means not only is there more housing supply, but potentially allows people to live without a car, or at least fewer cars.
Yes, okay.
And they have other options for transport. They've got shops and services within walking distance, as opposed to having to drive to the local shops.
Yeah.
So that, I guess, that's the way I tend to think of things.
Interesting. Well, look, this was a great conversation already, and we're coming to the end of it. But no matter how much we talk, housing and rezoning and growth is a big topic, not only in Canterbury-Bankstown, but as well as Australia as a whole. But what do you think the residents should realistically expect to happen as Canterbury-Bankstown continues to grow?
Yeah, look, I think, as much as I've been talking about change, I think change will still be gradual. Things take time to come online. And I guess from our point of view, our goal is just to responsibly manage change. So, one thing that excites me is our capital works program. So, in Canterbury, at the opposite end of our council, we're building a brand new aquatic centre, and I think that's going to be really great. I think that's coming online this year. We've got plans for a brand new aquatic centre in Revesby.
Right.
I'm looking. That's probably still some years away, but I'm really looking forward to that. Just last week, we opened a brand new BMX track in Milpera, so at Deepwater Park opposite Kelso Field. That was hugely popular at its launch. I've seen so many cyclists on that. That looks really great. Plans are well advanced for the rebuild of Panania Library again in my ward. That's going to be a big project. We'll have a new state-of-the-art library. So, these are examples that we're not just planning, but we're actually delivering for the current and future needs of our community.
Amazing. So we can let the Canterbury-Bankstown residents rest assured that we're not only giving you the houses, we're giving you maybe the services and the livability around it. David, I know we can talk for so long if we had the time, but I would like to thank you so much for bringing on board your ideas and your perspective on Beyond Politics, and for sharing all the growth and planning decisions that are shaping our future. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Christine. Thanks for having me.
No worries at all. Before we go, always understanding how these decisions are made help ensure the community voices remain part of this conversation. And until I see you next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and remember that strong communities are built through informed participations. See you next time.